Hey, we are back. Left a few questions, and one of the questions was Shravanti asked us, will the bigger companies with higher marketing budgets always win the bidding versus smaller companies? That's not necessarily a given. If you are more relevant, then you can win the bid. However, what larger companies do to beat this is they increase the bids to such a high extent that smaller companies can't bid with them. This is where game theory from economics works pretty well in AdWords. What you would want to do is you would want to bid slightly less than what the larger company is bidding for, because that's not what you end up paying, right? That cost is far lesser than what you're willing to bid. So we'll discuss this concept more in when we are doing search engine marketing. At the same time, can we have a show of hands that tells me whether I can proceed or should I wait? I guess we'll wait. It's at 1 p.m. and I can't really hold everyone against it. So Sri Lata says, I'm totally new to the terminal, even Excel. Sri Lata, just focus on the understanding how the Excel works. The terminologies will be made clear to you over a period of time. You should also start referring to the bibliography that we have provided in the learning management section of the course. Feel free to reach out and ask specific questions. That is the way we picked it up as well. If you have doubts over the current Excel, I can quickly run through it once as well. Would that work? Okay. So what we're trying to do here is on this sheet, we are quickly figuring out what is the kind of budget that we need for those volumes. And with the Excel, what we are trying to do is we are going to try to break up our larger problem, which is started off with this number right here, $10 million. We're trying to divide that into smaller sub problems. So one of the first things that we did was we used the ticket size to quickly figure out the number of conversions, the purchases per month, total purchases in a year that we need to generate, right? This, if let's say if this were a business which runs on leads, right? Had it been a lead gen business, then this number would not be orders, but would have been the number of leads, right? How do you figure out the number of leads? If let's say you have a sales team which is able to convert at 60%, that means for every 100 leads they get, they are able to convert 60 of them into paying customers, then you would derive the number of leads required in a year based on that number. Okay. You are getting stuck at the percentage basis. What we have done here, trying to chart out the month-on-month figures based on my industry's seasonality. Right. So what I did was I went to keywords trends and I looked at how the keywords are behaving across month on month. There are certain periods where the same industry is at the peak season. This is the time when my industry would be getting more sales. And then there are certain periods where my industry would be in a slump where nobody is doing any sales. So I would want to see how my industry is behaving so that I can forecast, I can do better forecasting based on that seasonal data, right? So with the percentage, what we are trying to do is we are trying to emulate the seasonality in my industry, right? So to do that, either way, one way was that I could look at my past year's sales, right, sales figures month on month, and then chart my growth accordingly. You know, take a 30% growth on each month sales, right, and then chart from there on, so that overall cumulatively I would have a 30% growth on my annual sales. Right. The other method is where I will relook at my industry's seasonality and plot it accordingly. So that's what I have done with the percentage. Okay. So then from the percentage we derive the month-wise targets. which is this row, right? And from the month-wise targets, we are deriving the channel-wise targets, which is these numbers that you have, right? These are based on this percentage that we were given in the case study, right? However, it's not necessarily given that we have to stick to it, right? But some of the things that you could do is you can look at your existing current data to see whether you have this kind of analysis available. If it's not available, what a common rule of the thumb is that for any retail business, your share social and search would be high. It would be 25% plus, right? For any B2B business, your share from search would be high, but your social won't be high enough. Although your email would be higher, right? So depending on which industry you are from, what kind of business you are running, you would want to change your channel splits and marketing mix. Okay, sometimes it might so happen that one particular channel there is a cap. Like for these searches, you will see that if my keyword research doesn't give me these kind of volumes, maybe I can only do 200 conversions from search. And that happens in real life, Srilata, when you are doing campaigns, that there's a limit at the number of conversions you can get. In such cases, what you would want to do is then you would want to take a look at all the other channels and see whether some specific channels can pick up the slack of search organic, right? So some of these channels are controlled through budgets. For example, in cost per click channel, I can drive up the number as long as I have access to a higher budget. If I don't have budgets, then I can't control it, right? Some channels are extremely flexible that way, where I can simply put in more money and start getting more results, right? Some channels are not like that. You need to do work to establish that channel. SEO, for example, is just such channel where you first have to establish a lot of authority and do all the groundwork to get some traction. Okay, we have someone who has raised his hand. So folks, if you have questions, feel free to ask those via the questions chat. Okay. So similarly, social media is a channel where you need to first establish a certain base. Without that, if you get into numbers, it will be difficult to deliver on those numbers. All right. Right. I'll also cover how do you do quick feasibility for such numbers. Okay. And we are back. So I was saying, when I left off, I was saying that you can quickly figure out the average cost per click for all your channels, right? Where do you do this? You do this in Keyword Planner, right? Do you see this specific column highlighted here? I have taken 3 different industries: hotels, education, and jewelry. This is the suggested bid. This would also be pretty much the cost per click that you would expect. Okay, so jewelry, you see the average cost per click is 20 rupees. Education, it's slightly higher, it's at 120 rupees. Hotels would be at 200 rupees. If you put real estate, it would be even higher than that. Okay, depending on which campaign you're running, this is there, right? And depending on how relevant you are, this cost would go down as well. So if you do smart campaigns, you can even get a cost per click of 15 rupees, 5 rupees, 10 rupees as well. All right. So let's come back. That is how I will arrive at my average cost per click, right? Let's say if it were 20 rupees. Okay. Right. Since we are in the business of we are doing USD here, this would be 20 rupees in dollar terms would be $0.33, right? So 0.3. Is that okay? Now, how is this helping me? I can then find out my total budget based on this. This would be 0.3 into, so 0.3 USD is 20 rupees, folks, right, into the number of clicks. Right? This is the budget that I would require to do 600 conversions. All right. Any questions on this point? Okay. So therefore, Shashank asks us, how did 0.3 come? So when I do keyword research, do you see these bids? These bids are given in rupee terms. What I would want to do is translate that into dollars, right? So 24 rupees is how many dollars? It's around $0.3 or so, right? That's how the 0.3 came here. Okay. And therefore my total budget that I want to require asked for is $18,000, right? Now, what is my cost per acquisition? My cost of acquisition would be 18,000 divided by 600 conversions. Yeah, which is $30. All right. What is my revenue per acquisition? This is given to us in the case study. It is 250 rupees, right? $250. Right? This one, ticket size. Okay. Therefore, what is my return on investment? It is 250 divided by 30. So I have a 8x multiplier based on this campaign. All right. This means I can happily run this campaign because for every $1 I'm spending, I am earning $8. Right? So I can happily ask for this budget, and this is a very profitable campaign for me. Typically, when you do e-commerce campaigns, in India, we have seen that the average is at 2.5x. We are able to forecast 8x, but that is something that left to be seen. Okay. Any questions so far? Now look at what happens when you start worrying about the conversion rate, right? We had the case study had given us a fixed conversion rate at 1%. Someone had asked a question, I believe it was Shashank, who had said that where did this 1% come from? 1% is a pretty bad conversion rate, right? So Shashank also asks us, what is the Indian average of ROI? Okay. The Indian average of ROI in e-commerce is around 2.5 to 3x. So that means for every 1 rupee people are spending, they are able to generate 2 to 3 rupees. Right? There are players who are also losing a lot of money in this place, where they are not even able to do that much. Okay, there are players who are spending 100 rupees and earning 100 rupees out of it, which is actually a loss-making activity. Even at 2.5 or 3x, it is still loss-making. Okay, but people are looking at more revenues, higher valuations, and that's why they are willing to spend more, right? So let's come back to this. Generally, if you want to run a sustainable campaign, you need to target a 6x ROI, right? But let's see how the design and impact of a website changes your marketing campaigns. If you improve the website, then your conversion rate would increase. And let's say if this were to be at 2%, then all my numbers change because my cost per acquisition goes down by half, right? And do you see my ROI doubles? So instead of focusing on campaign optimization, if marketers focused on conversion rate optimization, they would get far better results. All right. one of the areas that marketers don't really focus on is landing page. And when you are doing campaigns, please keep a focus on landing page, because working on the conversion rate gives you far better results than focusing on just campaign optimization. All right. So moving on. Then I had paid search. I then move on to direct. Now direct is pretty easy. The direct funnel is how many people came on directly to your site and how many ended up converting and buying something, right? Generally, if you are a strong brand, then you should have a very high direct traffic. Also, that direct traffic knows you pretty well, which is why they know the URL, which is why they're able to type directly in the browser. Direct traffic also should give you higher conversions, right? So at the top of the funnel, you have visits, right? This is similar to clicks. And then you have conversion rate, right? This should ideally be more than 1%. Okay, but let's still stick with 1% here. Shashank asks us, for e-commerce, direct percent would be more than non-e-commerce. So typically for e-commerce sites, right, the conversion rate is 2%. And if you take a look at non-e-commerce sites, which pretty much means lead gen sites, the conversion rate is 5%. So what you're saying may not necessarily be true, Shashank. Non-e-commerce sites will give you better conversion rates because nobody has to pay anything upfront. People are happy to give their email IDs and phone numbers, but they are not that happy to directly pay money, especially when the ticket size goes up, right? Even so, take a simple case as buying a book. You don't mind paying 200 rupees when you're buying a book of Flipkart. If it is buying a mobile phone, then maybe you would want to do a bit more. Okay, Shashank is also saying you meant for direct traffic. Okay, so direct traffic, it would be more for e-commerce because people are happily willing to buy, right? So yeah, I would agree with you that the direct percentage for e-commerce conversion traffic should be more, which is what I was saying. But let's still stick with 1%. Okay. Direct traffic is forecastable by the number of offline campaigns you're doing. So if you're doing consistent offline campaigns or consistent PR coverage campaigns, then you can notice a steady rise in your direct traffic, right? Direct traffic is often a proxy for how well your branding activities are going. All right. So if you are putting money in above the line campaigns, in branding activities, then you can happily forecast more from direct. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to keep working on direct without investing in your brand, right? The number of visitors you need from direct is pretty much this. Shashank also asked us, is that the only way of measuring it, only via offline? No, not really. A lot of times your repeat customers would also be knowing your URL. So even that would constitute as direct traffic, right? Direct traffic is people who know the URL pretty much and will not would not change, will not look at any other source. So they'll directly come to the site and purchase. All right. So you need to keep in mind that most and the easiest metric for direct would be exactly that, the brand strength. All right. So this is how this funnel is simple, right? If your site has direct visitors of 1,200 sessions in a month, then you should be able to get 120 conversions, right? Moving on, we go to email, right? So notice the email funnel is extremely different. Let me share the deck as well. For each slide, we have charted out each funnel, right? Search funnel, pay-per-click funnel, email, right? So at the top of the funnel, you have number of emails that you send, right? After the number of emails that you send, you would have how many people are opening your emails. After that, how many people are actually clicking on the call to action within the email. Then they are finally reaching your site. And when they are reaching your site, they are finally making the purchase. Okay. So the funnel would be in this fashion. Okay. I'm just setting this down here. Email, open. Srilata asked us, conversion value for direct is so less in here. I've taken it as a less because look at the split. I'm only assuming 5% for direct, right? And the reason why I did that because I wanted to also build an email in the mix. In the case study, we did not have email, but I added email. Emails open. I have emails clicked, which is also clicks, and I have conversion. Right? Clearly, this is conversion rate. 240. This is at 1%. Right? Can someone tell me the number of emails clicked? Yeah. This is again click-through rate. Number of people who read my emails and clicked on it, right? Again, 4% here. Keep in mind all these percentages you need to highlight and test, right? So the number of emails that need to be opened would be pretty high. And this would be open rate, right? So typically when you see an email in your inbox, based on what is the subject, based on who is sending it, you decide to open the mail, right? Generally for a warm email, an email, a person who knows your email, an open rate is, an average open rate is at 16%. If you're sending a cold email, which often is called a spam, the open rate can be as low as 2%, right? So if the customer knows you, if he knows the brand, if he has already received emails from you, then open rates are pretty high as 10 to 16%. If it's a cold email, if you are buying a list from someone and just doing mail promotions, then the open rate is at 2 to 5%, right? So depending on which email database you are sending from, maybe you are sending a database email to existing customers, your open rate would be higher. If you are sending a mail to customers who don't even know you, it would be lower, right? So depending on that, your open rate would be different. Right now, I'm assuming I'm buying some email database from Naukri or Monster or some site like that and doing promotions, right? So the number of emails I need to send for 240 conversions is around 12 million, right? So then how do I figure out the cost for this? Typically, to send a single email, it costs me some amount, right? So cost per email is generally it's 2 paisa, right? So folks who are already trying out email, if you are working with email providers in India, Netcore is willing to send out promotions for you for 2 paisa per email, right? If you are going to work with international emails, then typically Amazon SES will charge you $1 for every 10,000 emails, right? So this is the cost per email, right? So budget required would be cost per email into total number of emails sent. This might vary as per the budgets. Shashank, typically this exercise will help you quickly figure out what budget you need, right? Shashank, the cost per email would not vary as per the budget because depending on who your email provider is, the cost per email changes, right? So if I am targeting using Netcore to send my emails, then it is 2 paisa per email flat. If I am sending 50,000 emails, then it is 2 paisa into 50,000 flat. No questions asked. Okay. So this is the number of this is the budget that I require. Notice this number is very small compared to the AdWords budget that I have. The cost was 18,000 here. Budget was 9,000. And over here it is 1200. The thing about email is, Shravanti asks us 12 million emails just for 240 conversions. Is email worth it in many cases? So you do the math, Shravanti. Even at 240 conversions, I am still able to get a decent ROI, right? So the revenues that I am able to chalk out from this would be 240 into 250, right? $250 is the target size, ticket size. Right? Now, if you take a look at the ROI, do you see why it's worth it? I'm getting a 50x multiplier. Right? But the thing about email is that it doesn't make sense unless you do it at those volumes. If you are just going to send an email blast to 1 lakh or 2 lakh people, then it may not make sense because then you only get 10 or 20 odd conversions, right? To do email sustainably, it has to be done at scale and it has to be done in a targeted, structured fashion, right? So think about this. Would my industry have these volumes? Do I have access to 12 million emails? Maybe not, right? So that access to 12 million emails becomes my feasibility check, right? If I don't have access to that, then maybe I can't send out these many emails. Maybe I can send emails to the same set of audiences again and again. But statistically, it has been noted that you should not send more than 4 emails in a month. Then your open rate goes down drastically. Because then people start thinking that you are spamming. All right? Shravanti also asked us around how much buying these 12 million emails if available in the industry. That depends on from where you're sourcing from. So if you're sourcing from, let's say, Nehru Place in Delhi, where you can pretty much get anything and everything, then you will get a nice CD for 4,000 rupees where it will contain 4 to 5 lakh email IDs. Right? Obviously, I don't expect the open rate to be any higher than 2%. Similarly, if you are buying data from someone like Fundu Data, then the open rate would be higher, but the cost per email would be slightly higher, right? There are providers in the major metros who will sell email IDs to you at a cost of 10 paisa per email and also as a cost of 7 paisa per email. There are providers which will do mails for you for even, let's say Dun & Bradstreet you want to get data of Dun & Bradstreet for the top 50 CXOs in Mumbai. That would be far higher. It would be what, 500 rupees per email ID, because it is only 50 email IDs that you are asking for. But you will get access to their email IDs. right? So similarly, different database providers sell these at different volumes, right? Seth asks us how to send bulk emails. Typically, you would always use some kind of email sending program. Most of the times, it would either be something like Interspire or something like Sendy to send these emails, right? Or you can even take a look at the SaaS-based product called as Netcore, which works pretty well. Okay. Questions or can I proceed? Next, we have social, which works very differently with respect to the rest of the medium. My Chrome has hung for a minute there. So if you are on the Google Sheet with me, what I'll do is I'll access this sheet from a different machine and quickly fill up for social, right? At the top of the funnel for social, we have impressions, the number of people who are seeing your updates and posts, right? Then based on those impressions, you have clicks, number of people who are clicking on those posts and updates, right? And then you have conversions, right? So let me see whether in conversions I can get how much conversions do we have for social? We have 480, right? And my conversion rate is still at 1%. Okay. Are you looking at the spreadsheet? I am filling the spreadsheet through another window. My Google Chrome has got stuck. Okay. And the number of clicks I would need would be 480 divided by 1%, right? Again, clicks by impressions is click-through rate, right? Now, social media behaves differently from search. In search, I am actually searching for a solution to my problem. That is why I'm searching, right? So my search click-through rate is pretty high. In social media, people are generally there to look at photos of their friends, to generally comment and do light banter with their friends, right? So social media has very low click-through rates for advertisers, right? It has 0.1% or so as a click-through rate. Okay, so that pretty much means I need more impressions to get the same number of clicks. So I am at this staggering number, which is 48 million, right? Now let me show you why are we doing this, right? One way is that I can do social media campaigns where I am paying Facebook for driving the number of impressions that I am doing for my posts, right? This is the paid way. This is where I have a nice budget with me where I can spend happily on the cost per click model, right? There I'm pretty much paying for the clicks, which is 48,000, right? And I would not be paying more than 2 to 3 rupees per click. So the model works for me. All right. Okay. In case if I want to plan to do this the old-fashioned way, where I don't want to pay the social media channel, but I would rather want to drive clicks through the engagement around my social media updates, right? Then I need to have a fairly large following, right? Such a large following that when I share a single post, 48 million times should that post be seen by other people, right? So typically, if you look at Facebook pages, generally a retail brand would typically do 4 posts to 5 posts a day, right? You have around 30 days in a month, which pretty much means that no Facebook page does more than 200 posts in a single day, right? To get at 48 million impressions from 200 posts, you typically would want to do what, around 200,000 impressions for your single post. All right. So let me just add to the Excel here. Post. Total number of impressions by 200, where I'm assuming that we are going to do 200 posts in a month. Okay. So do you see this number for social? This one, right? We have derived this based on the number of impressions we need. Okay. Now, this is where adding a budget for either driving your likes or adding a budget for boosting your post content or working on your social media creatives to ensure that your viral content really help, right? Whenever you do a single post on any of your social media profiles, you need these many impressions. Typically what all these social media platforms are doing is they are driving down the organic impressions. Facebook as a platform is slowly driving down the impressions that a Facebook page gets. 2 years back, a Facebook page would typically get 20% of the page's followers to see the post, right? Nowadays it is at 7%. So let's say if I have a page which has 50,000 likes, whenever I share a post on my Facebook page, I will only ensure that 3,500 people will see that post, unless I pay Facebook to drive my impressions, right? This is why allocating a certain budget for your social campaigns makes a lot more sense if you are betting big for your social. Okay. If you don't have any budget for social media, thinking that just assigning a social media agency and I'll drive sales through that, that will not happen. I can't stress enough on this fact. Keep a specific budget for driving impressions. That is the only way you can get more clicks, and that is the only way you'll get more sales. All right. So let's say if you just launch a new Facebook page, right? It will not be as effective unless you invest in building the likes, unless you invest in driving the impressions for that Facebook page. A lot of times social media will be taken up as so. Coming back to the questions, I saw that there were some questions that were on social. Is there a limit set by FB for impressions? Shashank asks. Yes, Shashank. Facebook typically puts a limit on the number of times fan pages followers see the post updates, right? Typically that's at around 7%. Different countries have seen this changing from 7 to 10%. Also, that depends on whether the page is doing any paid promotions or not. If the page is doing paid promotions, then it can be pretty high. So let me just check whether I can. Yeah, is my screen now available? No. Okay, Shravanti says no. Let me just wait. Black patches are coming. I don't know what to do with this kind of screen, but let's see. Okay. Now you can see I am on slide 19. Are you with me there? Okay. So, all right, great. Thanks folks for bearing with me. Okay. So what we have done so far is plotted each channel on the Excel so that we can budget and forecast for each channel separately, right? Ideally, for each of these channels, you would want to ask for specific budget. For social, for example, if we need 48,000 clicks, what we would want to do is for each of that click, we would want to ask for a 2 rupees ka click per budget. So my total cost would be 48,000 clicks into 2 rupees. Since we are doing this in dollars, I will have to divide it accordingly. Cost per click is 0.02, and budget should be. So moving on, once you are planned for this, the next step that you need to focus on is making changes on the website, right? Now, why are we so focused on the website at this point? Because keep in mind that when you are doing digital marketing, either you are promoting a site, or you are promoting an app, or you are promoting any property that's online. Okay, and one of the most important features of doing this is the ability to collect the right data, right? So when we are doing marketing for online properties, you need to start gathering a lot of data, which will go back into the Excel. Keep in mind when all the sheets, if you look at the Google Doc spreadsheet that I had shared with you, a lot of these, there are numbers where I have assumed certain rates, right? All these numbers are available in Google Analytics, in Facebook Insights, in AdWords, right? And we are going to pull data from different sources and fill this sheet as our campaigns keep going. All right. So the whole idea is that you need to be comfortable with numbers. You need to be comfortable with pulling data. And a lot of these times, typically website starts taking a lot more priority, right? I showed you how changing the conversion rate can help me get better effectiveness and better ROI on my campaigns. Yeah. So similarly, when I am working on the website, one of the immediate things that I have to ensure is that the website is really ready for each of my channels. So when you do paid search, you would want a website to load faster. When you are doing organic search campaigns, you would want the website to be better SEO optimized, right? So take a look at this graph, this figure here, right? For each specific channel that we want to do, the website will have certain requirements. For example, for SEO, we would want to have on-page going. We would want to look at the multilingual part of it. So let's say if I'm targeting a French country, then I would want to have some part of my website which is in French, and that will help me in my SEO, right? If I have to do social, then I need to have all the Facebook metadata available on my site. I need to have social sharing options going, right? If I want to do pay-per-click campaigns, then I need to have a mobile-friendly site, because 80% of my traffic that I'm buying from mobile is going to be on mobile phones, right? So suddenly my website is no longer a site where I am only diverting traffic and hoping that it converts. It takes a much more active role where marketing sometimes has to define the specifications of the website for the developer team, right? How many amongst you have worked with developers in the past? So I have, in fact, I do all the time. At some cases, I have even had to handhold the developer to write code for him, right? I feel comfortable with that, but not all marketers feel comfortable facing to developers, right? Digital marketing would force you to work hand in hand with the developers, right? So it makes sense to be comfortable talking to developers, telling them that, you know what, this is what I need and this is how I need it, because it will give me better conversion rates, right? So get comfortable with your dev team. You will need them to do better campaigns. You need them for driving profitability. All right. So keep in mind, a website is not something that is done and finished. Sometimes you can keep working on a website for a lot of times, right? So one of the first things that you need to do when it is coming with, about a website is that it has to be aesthetically pleasing. If you're diverting traffic to the website, then clearly the website has to be made for conversions, right? There has to be clear call to actions. Look at this site here. It is for creating resumes. And do you see the green button here at the top? This button is called as a call to action, CTA, right? It is meant to drive any user to click on this button clearly, right? Whenever you are creating landing pages or websites for your campaigns, ensure that such clear call to actions are made available for your site's users to access the site. Okay. Similarly, these are obvious things, but I am just ensuring that you tick those off. The brand image and the site name should be clearly visible right there on the front, right? There cannot be any mistake. Which site am I on? Right? There should be no any opportunity for doing branding. You should take it. All right. So have clear logo, clear brand visibility on your site, so that any visitor of the site knows which brand he is talking to, right? Again, if you are doing campaigns where you are trying to ask the user to give his inquiry or ask the user to purchase something from you, you would want to build trust, and that is where testimonials really help, right? So what this site has done is they have shown user testimonials like this, and these help in building credibility for a company. In B2B cases, you would want to use industry certifications or certifications where ISO certified things. These help build trust for the person who is thinking of doing business. They help them include you in their consideration set. Okay, so always have some credibility building components on the site. Similarly, if you have social media presences on across the internet, then it makes sense to even link that on the site. The reason behind that is you want your users to know where to reach you out in case of they requiring some kind of help, right? So let's say I'm on Twitter and I'm not happy with the way my train experience is going, so I can always tweet it out to them, right? So when you're giving out this social media icons, they are not simply icons on a website, they're actually modes of engaging with your brand, right? And when people engage with you on each of these social media channels, please be aware that you need to be responsive and you need to respond back as soon as. Okay. Similarly, a lot of people come on the website to look at contact details of your person. Sometimes they just want to know whom should I talk to get my work done, right? So clearly have the contact details, maybe a separate contact us page on the site where everyone can reach out to you and say, okay, this is my problem, or maybe I want to do business with you or not, right? So it helps a potential visitor to understand how to go about contacting you, right? Never forget that this is one of the easiest sales generating mechanisms that you can do. Just put out your phone number on the site. People will happily call your number, right? Now, let's say if you're an e-commerce site, then you would want to highlight your navigation, your elements, right? So look at this site. This is a screenshot from Amazon, and look at the components on the site here. It's easy to navigate on the site, although they have more than 100 SKUs, 100 categories, and more than 1 million SKUs. It's easy to navigate through the site, it's easy to search for, and it keeps telling you what you want to buy, right? So the whole idea behind creating a site is that it should not just be something that has been put together to create a site, but it's really an accessible and it's a good experience for anyone who's visiting the site, right? So that he feels compelled to do what you want the user to do on the site. A conversion is an action that you want your user to do on your website. Okay, so let's say if you are a B2B site and you are in the business of generating leads for your contracts, then on your website you would want your potential customer to actually leave behind his details with the enquiries so that you can reach out to him and finalize the contract, right? So a conversion for you is that someone comes to your site and fills out that enquiry form. So keep in mind that whenever you're creating sites, the conversion mechanism has to be there. Similarly, the site has to load fast, right? Research has shown that whenever people do any search kind of traffic, if the site is taking more than 3 seconds to load, then people will go away, right? So bounce rate is negatively correlated with the page loading speed. Right? How do you check this? If you have Google Chrome, then you can quickly load any site and just see what is the kind of page loading speed. Take a look at google.com. Google loads under a second. Obviously, Google doesn't have anything on the main page, which is why it loads very fast, right? But even if you take a look at Flipkart, Flipkart loads under 2 seconds, and that's pretty fast. All right. So moving on. Right. The next, what we want to do is for the next week or so, we would want to divide the entire group into set of teams, and I'll be giving out website details where you would be doing your own campaigns, right? So what I'll do now is I'll share with you these credentials in the same Excel that we had set up, right? Notice in the Excel we are going to create one more worksheet called as logins, and I'm going to share the credentials for these logins on that sheet. All right. And we are going to use these sites for all our campaigns moving on. So from next week onwards, pick a site that you like and you can work with any of the sites you want. I have already shared the credentials here. Please also keep bookmark this Google Doc. We are going to keep adding keyword research, etc. So we'll keep adding to this sheet over a period of time. Okay. Shashank asks us, can we choose any website of our choice? Shashank, ideally, I would want you to experiment with these sites because it's a controlled environment, right? Similarly, if there are any issues that happens with these sites, we can immediately step in and make corrections. That can't be done on any website of your choice, right? Typically, what you would want to do is you would want to do all experiments on these sites and then take down learnings and apply those learnings on your site, right? So consider this as a sandbox, these sites, where you can do pretty much anything you want with these sites. Okay, these sites are not accessible soon right now. They would be made available. I am just sharing you with you credentials. We will be working on these sites next week onwards. Okay, so these would be made accessible to you by next week. Next week we are going to go into analytics and install analytics scripts on the site, set up goals, put content, right? So these credentials are for that. I'm just sharing this with you in one sheet so that everyone is using the same logins over a period of time, right? So Akruti Jewels is an e-commerce jewelry store. 7C Stores is a lead gen business where we are doing lead generation for a tour and travel shop. Chale Chalo is an activism site. So we are trying to determine different sites. iRutech is a edtech startup which is focusing on education, right? So there are different sites that we have set up so that you get hands-on experience with different case studies. All right. So that's it for now from my side. Any more questions you have, feel free to ask those. I will also give out my contact details if that's required. Feel free to reach out and ask doubts. Okay. If any more questions, Shashank asks us, will you be taking us through the entire course? Well, I don't know, Shashank. Most of the times it is a couple of faculty who will take this course. So it would be me and maybe another 2 faculty, right? I wouldn't know this at this time because I don't do the scheduling. Uma asks us, will you please explain about website login and process? Uma, these links are given for the next session. We will be covering this in the next session. Don't worry about this at this point of time, right? But what I typically do is I set up the entire Excel in one sheet so that it's a ready reference for all of you. Srilata asks us, Prasad, will this spreadsheet be accessible? Yes, it is. Anyone can access it. If you have the link, you should be able to access it. If you want the link again, let me just share this quickly with everyone. I see that there are at least 7 odd people on this sheet right now. Right? I am just sharing the link again. Hey, so if no one has any questions, so we can stop for today and meet again next week. All right. Thank you. Bye.